Hello, everybody, and welcome to Heartlight Vedic Astrology. And today's talk, I was going to discuss Shubha and Papakarta yogas, also known as the scissors combinations. And this is from a Vedic astrology or Jyotish perspective, so ancient Indian astrology. Okay, so if you're new to Vedic astrology, Jyotish are my videos. All of my teaching videos on the subject are my concepts playlist. They can be found there. Wherever you see a double asterisk in one of my talks, that means I have a teaching video on that topic if you'd like to learn more. And then for similar content like this, I would look at my yogas or planetary combinations playlist. And specifically in that playlist, I would look at solar yogas or Vesi, Vasi, Ubhayachari, and lunar yogas, Sunapha, Anapha, Dhuradhara, and Kemadruma, because there's a kind of similar pattern that we're looking for, but one is around the sun, one is around the moon, and then the one we're doing today is around the Lagna, or first house ascendant rising sign. Okay, so other videos to watch, before this one or with this one to get more out of this talk is North, South, and East Indian style charts. I do cover Western style charts in that video as well. Also, Introduction to Navigating a Birth Chart. The Lugna, also known as the Ascendant, Rising Sign, or First House, and the natural, benefic, and malefic planets. Okay, so what is a Kartari yoga? So let's break down, the Sanskrit here, so we maybe it sticks in our heads a little bit better. So yoga in Jyotish is a planetary combination. Okay, so it's a certain combination of planets and a certain, certain pattern or in certain houses and that sort of thing. They give a chart an extra kind of boost, or not boost, that's not the right word. It's more like another layer of interpretation. And yogas are actually pretty important, okay? So it's usually considered either first or second level analysis level because it's so important, okay? And then kartari means scissors, knife, or instrument that cuts, okay? So there's some slicing through here. Okay, it happens now. Slicing through can be shub, like a good slicing through, like maybe slicing away difficulties or slicing, cutting through obstacles, that sort of thing. It could also be a papa or bad type of cutting through. So it could be like cutting through good things, like cutting through blessings or cutting through advantages or opportunities, or letting them, kind of, maybe ending them prematurely, that sort of thing. Okay, so if we look at the definition, now this is how we're going to identify Shubhakartari and Papakartari yoga. Okay. Is that we're going to be looking at one, you want to look at the Lugna. So on the right here, I have a little mock-up chart. This is a North Indian style chart. And the top diamond in the middle here with the little 3 in the corner, that's the Lugna, also known as the ascendant, rising sign, or first house. And the little 3 in the corner denotes not that it's the first house, because this, in a North Indian style chart, this top diamond is always a first house. That little 3 designates that this would be like the third zodiac sign, which is Gemini. So this would be a Gemini rising chart. Okay, just to generally orient you. Now, what we're looking for, okay, so we go to the Lugna and we're looking at the second house from the first. So to get to the second house, you go backwards, you go counterclockwise. So from the first house, you go up and to the left into this little upside down triangle. This is the second house. Okay. Now, for the Kartra Yoga, we're also going to look at the 12th house. So the 12th house, from the first house, you count from the first house, you go around counterclockwise. If you count 12 houses, you're going to end up on the other side of the Lugna, which is the 12th house. Okay, so what we're looking for are planets, uh, again, benefic planets, malefic planets in the second house and 12th house from the Lugna. Okay. Now in the Shubha Kartari, so again, Shub means good or positive Kartari, so this is a good scissors. So this kind of combination is going to cut through obstacles and cut through difficulties. Okay, so when we get Shubha Kartari yoga, that means we're getting natural benefics, ideally unafflicted by malefics. Ideally unafflicted. So it's not like a hard, it's like an all or nothing thing here. Okay, it depends on what's going on. You always have to take these things in context. But if you see natural benefics in both the second and 12th house from the Lugna, you might have a Shubha Kartra yoga. especially if there's no malefics involved here. If there are only benefic planets around the Lugna, then you've got a Shubhakartra yoga. So what does this do? This bestows protection on the native and cuts away problems, as I've essentially been talking about. Okay. Now, on the other side of things, you could have a Papakartra yoga. So again, we're going to be looking at the second house and 12th house from the Lugna. And now we're looking at natural malefics. Now, if you don't know natural benefics and malefics, then I would go check out my video on that. Okay, so natural malefics, if you have only natural malefics, ideally unafflicted by benefics, that flank the first house or the lugna, then you get a Papakartra yoga. Okay, so what happens here is again you're cutting through good things. It's almost like if you're cutting a piece of paper, piece of cloth, and then you kind of cut the wrong way, or you cut too much, and you're like, oh, I can't like sew it back together. Or sometimes you can sew it back, but it's not as strong. Like I think that's like a phrase or term they use even in like tailoring and stuff like that. It's like you measure twice and cut once, because once you cut, it's like kind of it's hard to truly get it back to its original state of integrity and strength and that sort of thing. Okay, so if somebody has a Papakartra yoga, what does that mean? Well, there's going to be a lack of protection, essentially, especially regarding first house matters. So, what are like first house matters? So, that's body, that's the health, that's the psychology, that's also like the time and place that somebody was born, birth itself, even. Okay, this could be like a what was it paternal, excuse me, a paternal grandmother. It could be maternal grandfather. These are all different things that the first house represents. Okay. So for first house stuff, I would go check out my Lugna video to get all the kind of details on that. Okay. So again, it can curtail blessings if you have a Papakartra yoga. The other way I've heard it spoken about is that when somebody has a Papakartra yoga, it may be that in their life, they're up against some formidable opponent or system in their life. Okay. So keep that in mind as well. Now, I did check out some of the shastra. I went to the Phala Deepika. This is a older text on Vedic astrology. Specifically, I looked at chapter 6, and there's a few words in shloka 8, 11, and 13 about the Kartra yogas. So for Shubha Kartra yoga, it says, will make a person long-lived, fearless, healthy, and without enemies. Okay, so you can see there's a lot of good stuff here. And what's in here? Long lived. Okay, so health, which again is first house stuff. Long lived, longevity is first house. Healthy, so there's kind of two health related things here. Fearless. So again, this is kind of a personality type of thing. Yeah. So, again, if you have the kind of karma that has created a Shubh Kartra yoga, then it will cut through obstacles. And so sometimes it's almost like a learned sort of habit. Like, it might just be like, oh, I always seem to get through things, or, I don't, if people come up against me, they usually kind of, fall to the wayside, without too much effort, that sort of thing. You can kind of, and then that kind of creates a habit. And as they say, if you in a habit long enough, it affects your, personality and character. Then you start assuming that you're always gonna, triumph. And then without enemies, so this is kind of the same thing. So fearless might be generally like for, people or, inanimate things and that sort of thing, but enemies is, specifically people. So this would potentially, what I'm seeing here is like confidence. So somebody who's confident and healthy. So if they have a robust sense of self, physically, mentally, emotionally, they're going to have a strong lugna. So again, the benefic planets flanking the second and 12th house from the lugna is going to, again, give a chart a boost. Okay. Then on the other hand, Papakartra yoga will make a person miserable. So this is like, you can see it's going the other way in terms of personality and feelings and that sort of emotions. Bereft of wife and children. Now, this is very specific. I don't think it has to be. And we'll see examples, okay? I'm going to give you some famous charts with these Kartra yogas, okay? And as far as I know, No, the people with the Papakartra yoga both married and children and stuff. Okay, so this is, but again, what does this mean? Like, because we're also talking about ancient Indian astrology. So, especially back in the day, if you didn't have a wife and children, it meant that you were kind of displaced. You didn't really have a solid role or place in society, and also lacking support. Yeah. So again, you don't have to be literal about these things, but you can kind of see. And then defective limbs. Well, that's also very interesting because that relates to the body and health to some degree, but also defective limbs. Like literally, you can't, if you have defective limbs, you can't even hold a cup potentially, or you can't hold the fork, or, so it might hold you back functionally, like a Papakartari scissors yoga might do. Okay, so again, this might be literal for some people, but for a lot of people, it's going to be like there's like a, again, inability to smoothly and efficiently kind of function because it's going to be, it's, harder. And if you've ever, seen somebody, I mean, I know people who've like lost a limb or whatever, and some of them you don't even notice because they've been doing it so well for so long and they've adapted that you don't even notice. But I'm sure, that there were a lot, even though they may not bring attention to it, I'm sure at different times, because the world is built for, people, of a certain body type, or even like people who are like, even some cultures try to get rid of like left-handed people, like because like even desks and stuff like that, student desks are built for mostly right-handed people because that's the majority. There's always some kind of accommodation that has to happen. And again, not everybody's going to draw our attention, but it can, slow people down or they have to adapt. And even that, can, so again, in a way, that's just a metaphor for this papakarchari yoga can, again, be a bit of an obstacle, if not a big obstacle. And part of it too is you have to always, we'll look at some charts here. And the reason why I want to put the charts in here is because, again, different, other yogas can affect how powerful this Shubha and Papakartra yoga are. The condition of the planets will also potentially, give information about how strong the, Shubha or Papakartra are. So you always have to take it in context. Okay, this is just like a first pass of like, is there possibly a Shubha or Papakartra yoga in the chart that we have to assess or consider? Okay. And then short life. So this is like the opposite of the long-lived here of the Shubhakartri. Okay. So again, some of this will be literal, but if you just kind of think of it again as like extensions or variations of first house issues, it makes sense. Okay. So let's see. So here are the famous charts I brought up. And I'm not going to tell you who they are. I will in the end, but let's just look at them, okay? So the first chart here, which is the upper left, okay, we can see this is a Mercury, or not a Mercury, a Gemini rising Lugna, right? We have a 3 in the bottom corner, like we did in the sample chart before, mock-up chart that I gave you, okay? And we have Mercury in its own sign. The Mercury in the first house has Digbal or directional strength, okay? So there's going to be strength of character, strength of personality, and strength of body for this person. Right? So that's true. However, if you look at the second house, we've got Saturn, Sun, Venus. And if you look at the 12th house, we have Mars and Rahu. So we have 2 malefics in the second house and 2 malefics in the 12th house. Okay, we have Venus in there. Okay, I would still consider this a Papakartra yoga, even though the Venus is there. Again, ideally, Venus would not be there for this to be like a full, complete, crystal clear Papakartra. But with 2 malefics on both sides and just the little Venus stuck in there, I would still consider this a Papakartra yoga. Okay, so this is somebody who clearly was up against a lot in their life, a lot of opposition in their life. Okay, and then if we look at, these planets here, you can see with the sun, Venus is within about 10 degrees of the sun, as is Saturn. Saturn and Venus are both combust. Okay. Meaning that they're eclipsed by the light of the sun. So you can't see Venus literally in the sky, and you can't see Saturn literally in the sky. And what that means in interpretation is you can't see these, you can't see the external manifestations that well in your life. So the things that Saturn represents and things that Venus represents. Okay. Venus is in an enemy sign here. Sun is in a friend sign here. Saturn is not in a friend sign here. So the sun is kind of eclipsing this other stuff. So not only because especially Saturn is a combust here, I would think that this person actually has not just external conflict going on here with the sun in the second house, but internal conflict as well. Okay. And then we have these two, natural malefics in the 12th house, Mars and Rahu. I mean, that's going to be, a lot of ambition, right? Especially like overseas. Okay. And you'll see once I get through these charts, you'll see who this is and it'll make sense. Okay. Then if we pop over to the other side, so now we're at the top right here in the second chart. You see here now we have in the Lugna, the 2 in the bottom corner represents the second zodiac sign, which is Taurus or Vrishabha in Sanskrit. And you can see that this person has Sun and this person has Mars. Okay, so we have the 2 leadership planets here. Yeah, so very fiery personality. And let's see. So if we look, again, if we're looking for, does this person possibly have Shubha Kartari or Papa Kartari yoga, excuse me. Jupiter is a natural benefic. It's in the second house. In 12th house, we have Mercury and Venus. Okay. So we have 3 benefics in the second house and 12th house for this person. Okay. So what else do we have here? Oh, the other thing is we have Parivartana Yoga, exchange of houses between Venus and Mars, because Mars is in a sign of Venus and Venus is in a sign of Mars. Okay. So even though we have all this leadership, fiery energy with Sun and Mars, because these are 2 fire planets in the Lugna, in the rising sign, Jupiter in the second house, okay, so Jupiter represents oral communication, and so does the second house. Okay, Jupiter also represents finance, okay, like banks and stuff like that, as does the second house, like assets. So this person probably very much benefited from speech, language, and also finance, was well off. Then in the 12th house here, we have Mercury and Venus. So there might have been some losses, but because there's a Parivartanic yoga, again, exchange of houses between Mars and Venus, Mars will protect some losses in the 12th house, especially like inanimate things, not necessarily like animate things. The thing though is that it's kind of a mixed bag when you get a Parivartana yoga because how do I say, it's like you get some protection of losses, but the other thing is that the Lugnatia, the ruling planet for the chart, which again we have a Taurus rising here. Taurus is ruled by Venus. Venus has gone to the 12th house of losses and expenditures. So there can be losses here. There can be, especially maybe during Mercury Venus periods or Dasha periods, this person is going to face losses. Okay, so it's not going to be a totally smooth ride. But the thing is, because Venus has gone to the 12th house and some Parivartana, that also means that potentially, again, depending on what planets this person runs, this could be that maybe this person goes through a negative period where there's some losses, but then they're going to make a comeback. They're going to recover these losses because the Parivartana yoga will be active. Okay. So overall, though, I mean, this is a very clear Shubha yoga. So there's a lot of support here for this person and opportunities as well. Then if we go to the third chart, this is on the bottom left here. Okay, so we have in the Lugna, 7 in the bottom corner, 7 zodiac sign. This is a Libra rising. Okay. And we have Venus in its own house. Okay, so kind of like the first chart right above it, This person has strength. There's strength here, okay, of character, of body, and it's with Mars, it's with Mercury, okay, and Venus and Mercury again. We have another Mercury in the first house, so Digbala here. Okay, there is like Venus and Mars are about to go into planetary war, just out of planetary war. So there's some conflict here, okay, in the first house. But if we're looking at the Shubh-Kartri, Papa-Kartri yogas potentially, or just trying to see if there's possibly anything there, what do we have? We have Saturn in the second house, that's a natural malefic, and we have Sun in the 12th house, natural malefic. This is a clear Kartri yoga. However, kind of like the chart right above it, this person might have enough strength to break through these obstacles. Okay. But then if we look at the last chart here in the bottom right, okay, now we have the little 5 in the bottom corner of the Lugna. We have a Leo rising or Simha rising chart for Lugna. Okay, we have Mars here, so we have another leadership person here. Okay. Then if we look to the second house, we have a Jupiter retrograde. That little line under Jupiter means it's retrograde. So we have a strong Jupiter in the second house. So again, communication and finances strong for this person, especially because the ruling planet for the second house is Mercury, and Mercury's in its own sign in the 11th house here. So there's a lot of money here for this person. Okay. And also like social support, because the 11th house is not only income, but it's also like group societies. Now, if we look to the 12th house, we have Venus here, which is a natural benefic planet, and it's with Saturn. So Saturn will bring this down. So it's not like a 100% clear, crystal clear Papakartra yoga, but I would still consider this, especially because of the strength of Jupiter and the dispositor of Jupiter, Mercury. Especially this Jupiter, when this person runs Jupiter period, it's going to give a lot. And then the other thing is Jupiter is aspecting the 8th house here, 8th house of other people's money. So, especially when Jupiter runs, this person's going to gain, or even like I would even say Mercury, either Mercury, Jupiter, maybe both. There's going to be a lot of money coming in different ways. Like assets is the second house, 11th house is income, 8th house is other people's money. Okay, like maybe this could be inheritance or other sources of income, yeah. Now, again, we have Venus in the 12th house here, so I would still consider this a Shubh-Kartra yoga, but when you run Venus, there might be some losses here, okay? And especially when you run Saturn, there may be some losses here, okay? Because you don't have this like in the chart above it, you don't have this Parivartana yoga. So this person potentially can go through cycles of loss as well, but there's so much gain here, especially like regarding finances and groups. Like it's almost like, I mean, the losses that happen through Venus and Saturn aren't nearly as strong as the gains through Jupiter and Mercury, is what I'm saying here. Although again, you'd have to do other assessments, like maybe the Venus and Saturn are Chidra grahas, which are planets of vulnerability, in which case, and then the thing is you'd have to see like, you know, depending on what you're looking at, like health or relationships or work or income, you'd want to look at the subdivisional charts to see this as well. But again, especially with this last chart, Jupiter and Mercury are going to be big boosts here. Venus and Saturn, not so much. But when you have Jupiter and Venus flanking the Lugna here in the second and 12th house, it looks like almost no matter what kind of losses this person experiences, they're going to be able to kind of go through and overcome them. Okay, so let's see who these folks are. All right, so the first chart here, this is Arnold Schwarzenegger, yes, famous movie actor and a former governor of California. Also, like before even all that, he was a massive weightlifter personality. Okay, so strength of body, mind, and he had a lot to overcome. He came from pretty humble beginnings, I think back in Austria it was, and went to another country and became governor of a of a state in another country. I mean, and then became a famous Hollywood actor. I mean, so there was strength here, but there was a lot for him to overcome, which he did. Then the second chart here, At the top right is Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who was the author of the Sherlock Holmes series and that sort of thing. So, yeah, very innovative. And he, really, even when he was alive, it's not like he even posthumously made money from the Sherlock Holmes series, but, he did quite well with that. Then in the bottom right here, this is the birth chart for Mohandas K. Gandhi. So again, strength of character and body. But yeah, I mean, the Saturn and Sun flanking his Lugna here. This is him going up against the British Raj, right? British Empire. Yeah. And then the last chart here is the chart of Donald Trump. So, yeah, I mean, he tends to get in quite a bit of trouble, but he seems to kind of keep going forward. I mean, some people are actually kind of like, mind boggled about like how he seems to keep going forward despite all the trouble he can get in. You know? So anyway, and then as I mentioned, like with Papakartra yoga, like again from the Phala Deepika, it said, bereft of wife and children. Well, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Mohandas K. Gandhi both were married and both had several children. So again, it's not, always a literal thing with the interpretation of these yogas. Okay. Oh, just I kind of went back and just to go through Arthur Conan Doyle's or just add a few details there. So when I was just talking about on the previous slide where there were no indicators of whose charts these were, and I was talking about this Parivartana yoga between Mars and Venus, and his chart would give somebody the ability to come back from loss. Before he was, hyper successful with the Sherlock Holmes series, he was a failed physician. I believe he was an ophthalmologist. Yeah, so he set out a shingle to become a doctor, and apparently nobody showed up. So, he went through all that training and stuff like that. So there were losses for him, but then eventually there were like these huge gains. So, yeah, there you go. Right, so there you go. Kartari yoga today, Shubha Kartari and Papa Kartari yoga. Again, all of my teaching videos on the subject of Vedic astrology are my concepts playlist. They can be found there. If you want to see, if you'd like to learn astrology by looking at famous birth charts, I have a whole list of the birth charts I've analyzed on the channel in a video titled Birth Chart Archive List 2024. And then if you're interested in a personal birth chart reading, I do offer those live and then on Zoom and Skype or as pre-recorded video. So if that's interesting to you, you can email heartlightastro@yahoo.com for more info on that. I do have another YouTube channel on natural medicine where I talk about other Vedic arts such as Ayurveda and yoga. So Ayurveda is traditional Indian medicine, yoga, and then other paradigms of medicine like homeopathy and naturopathic medicine. And the name of that channel is Nature Source Care, so that's out there too. All right, so as always, I hope you found this talk interesting, helpful, and useful to you as you learn to navigate the energy cycles of your own life. All right, so take good care and namaste.